A German shepherd pulled a U.S. Marine toward an abandoned canal where a fragile secret waited. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. He isn't supposed to feel unease tonight. Not on a quiet patrol route he's walked 100 times. But something in the air feels different, thin, like the world is holding its breath. Staff Sergeant Daniel Rourke tightens his grip on Harbor's leash as dusk settles across the old shipyard district, washing everything in a muted copper haze. The scent in the air shifts, salt, rust, and something colder beneath it, like forgotten water left too long in shadow. Harbor halts. His body stiffens the way only a German shepherd trained by war can. One ear angles toward the abandoned canal beyond the fence line, the other toward Daniel's heartbeat. Daniel exhales slowly. Easy, boy. But Harbor pulls again, harder this time, nails scraping against cracked concrete. There's no fear in the dog's movement, only urgency, sharp and deliberate, as if he's hearing something Daniel cannot. The canal has been empty for years. No boats. No workers. Just a ribbon of still water tucked between collapsed walkways and the skeletons of rusted rail beams. Daniel has never liked this place. It carries the kind of silence that pushes into your lungs, silence that feels like it remembers pain. The wind changes direction, brushing cool against Daniel's cheek. Harbor reacts instantly, yanking with sudden force, almost lifting his front paws off the ground. Daniel stumbles a half step forward. Harbor, what is it? But the dog doesn't look back. His eyes fix on the far edge of the canal where the concrete dips into shadow. Daniel's pulse softens into something hollow. This isn't normal behavior. Harbor isn't dramatic. He isn't anxious. He signals only when something matters. Something alive. Daniel follows the pull, his boots crunching on gravel, the evening light dimming around them as if the sun is stepping aside to let a truth emerge. A faint sound trembles through the stillness. Daniel freezes. It's almost nothing, a whisper of movement, a flutter against stone, a breath too small for the world to notice. But Harbor notices. Harbor always notices. And that's when Daniel realizes, whatever waits in that darkness is fragile enough to break from the wrong kind of silence, fragile enough that tonight, only a dog's faith could have found it in time. Harbor edges closer to the canal's lip, his breath quick and visible in the cooling air, as if even the temperature is leaning toward night before it is ready. Daniel's boots slide slightly on the sloped concrete, and he steadies himself with one hand against a rusted railing. The metal is cold, colder than it should be, as though the canal holds its own weather. Easy, Harbor, slow, Daniel murmurs, but the dog lowers his head, listening more with instinct than ears. There is another sound now. Not the faint flutter he heard before, but a soft, unsteady tapping, like something brushing against plastic. Daniel narrows his eyes, letting them adjust to the dim. The water below lies still, except where a small piece of debris lifts and falls with each subtle ripple. Harbor steps forward and noses the air, letting out a single low whine. Daniel feels that sound more than he hears it. It tells him the truth. Something in the shadows is alive, but barely. He crouches, letting Harbor guide him. The dog shifts to the right, paws soft on the damp surface, then pauses near a break in the concrete wall where the canal narrows. Daniel leans closer. A faint reflection trembles in the water. Not the reflection of a person or an animal, but the corner of a small container wedged between stones. A pale shape glints inside. For a moment Daniel hesitates, not out of fear, but out of a quiet reverence he does not fully understand yet. Harbor nudges his arm. A gentle, steady push. A reminder. Daniel lowers himself carefully, knees touching the cold ground, the distant hum of the city fading into a muted hush around them. He reaches out, fingers grazing the rim of the container. The plastic is chilled, smooth, holding on to the day's last light. He pulls it closer, inch by inch, until it rests safely beside him. Harbor leans in, sniffing softly, his breath warming the plastic surface. The sound. Inside comes again, faint but deliberate. A tremor. A stir. Daniel lifts the lid with slow, careful movements. His heartbeat kicks once, then steadies into a quiet ache. What he sees is small. So small it barely takes up the space inside the container. A tiny pup, no more than a few days old, wrapped in a thin scrap of fabric. Its chest rises and falls in fragile, uneven breaths, each one an act of will. The pup's fur is damp, clinging to its body like a second skin, and its tiny nose twitches as a weak sound escapes it. Harbor lowers his head until it almost touches the pup, exhaling a warm breath as if lending the little one part of his own strength. Daniel feels something shift inside him, slow and heavy, like a door opening in the quietest corner of his heart. "Hey there, little one," he whispers, voice steady but thick around the edges. "You held on. Somehow, you held on." The air grows still around them, as if the world is pausing to make room for the smallest heartbeat on the edge of the forgotten canal, waiting for someone to believe it is worth saving. Daniel feels the weight of the tiny pup settle into his palms, lighter than he imagined, warm only in the places where Harbor's breath has touched. The evening deepens around them, turning the canal's surface into a muted sheet of bronze. A soft breeze rolls through, carrying the scent of old stone and river reeds, brushing across Daniel's face like a quiet reminder that time is running thin. The pup gives a faint tremor, a small effort that pulls Daniel's focus entirely. He lifts the fabric closer around its body, creating a cocoon against the chill. Harbor watches every movement, his amber eyes steady, ears tipped forward in full attention. Daniel glances at him. "You did good, Harbor." The dog's tail makes a gentle tap against the ground, once, like a silent acknowledgement. But the pup's breathing wavers again, shallow and uneven, pulling Daniel back into urgency. The cold is settling in faster than he expected. He brings the pup closer to his chest, letting his body heat seep through the thin cloth. The warmth begins to spread slowly, but not quickly enough. Daniel rises, careful not to jostle the tiny form, and scans the area. The nearest road is a short walk, but the veterinary clinic that stays open after hours is nearly a mile from here. A mile is not far, yet every step could cost more than he is willing to imagine. Harbor nudges his leg as if sensing the calculation forming behind Daniel's eyes. "We need to move," Daniel whispers, more to himself than to the dog. The sky shifts above them, clouds drifting across the fading light. The first hint of night settles along the canal banks, drawing thin shadows that stretch toward Daniel's feet. He starts forward, Harbor walking close at his side, matching his pace. The pup gives another weak sound, softer than before. Daniel cups his hand lightly over its back, shielding it from the wind. He can feel the small heartbeat thudding irregularly against his palm, a fragile rhythm fighting to stay. As they move toward the road, the industrial district grows quieter, buildings standing like hollow silhouettes. Each footstep seems to echo more than the last, the world narrowing to Daniel, the pup, and the steady presence of Harbor guiding him through the dimming light. Halfway up the embankment, Daniel pauses, adjusting the pup under his jacket, allowing it to rest directly against his chest. The warmth there is stronger, more constant. The pup responds with a tiny stretch, the kind newborns make when reaching for something they cannot name. Daniel feels his breath catch. It is hope, delicate but real. Harbor stops beside him, leaning slightly against his leg, sharing his balance as though to remind him that he is not carrying this weight alone. The sounds of distant traffic float faintly toward them, a promise of help, of light, of hands that might know how to save something this small. Daniel takes another breath, steady and sure, then steps forward again with purpose. The fragile secret cradled against his chest holds on, and Harbor walks with a quiet certainty that feels like faith. The road ahead glows faintly under scattered streetlights, each pool of light stretching across the pavement like quiet invitations to keep going. Daniel moves quickly but carefully, one hand securing the tiny pup against his chest, the other steadying himself as he navigates the uneven sidewalk. Harbor stays close, brushing his shoulder against Daniel's leg every few steps, a silent reassurance in the gathering dark. The air cools further, carrying the scent of distant rain. Daniel lifts the edge of his jacket slightly, checking the pup. Its eyes remain closed, lashes barely visible against the soft curve of its face. The breaths come slow and shallow, each one a fragile promise. He lowers the jacket again, tucking the pup closer, feeling its warmth mingle with his own. Harbor pauses, ears tilting toward a distant sound. A car passes at the end of the block, headlights sweeping briefly across them before disappearing around a corner. The world feels strangely hollow at this hour, as if everything has stepped aside to make room for the small life Daniel carries. They cross a narrow footbridge, the wooden planks groaning softly beneath their weight. Below, the water flows with a gentle, rhythmic sound that calms the edge of Daniel's worry. Harbor lifts his head, sniffing the breeze, then continues forward with renewed intent. Almost there, boy, Daniel whispers. His breath fogs in the cool air. A few scattered leaves brush across the path, rustling like soft footsteps. Ahead, a warm glow appears, steady and golden against the dark. The veterinary clinic stands at the corner of the next block, its porch light shining as though it has been waiting for them. Relief washes through Daniel, slow and deep. But the pup stirs weakly in his arms, reminding him the work is not done. He quickens his pace. Harbor trots ahead, but only by a few feet, glancing back often to ensure Daniel is close behind. Daniel steps onto the small concrete landing outside the clinic, adjusting the pup once more before reaching for the door. His fingers brush the handle, cool and smooth, and he pulls it open. Warm air spills out, carrying the scent of antiseptic and freshly washed linens. It feels like stepping into safety. Inside, the reception area is dim but welcoming. A desk lamp casts a soft amber glow across the counter, and a bulletin board displays cheerful photos of pets and handwritten notes from grateful owners. The quiet hum of equipment filters through a hallway door left slightly open. Daniel clears his throat gently. "Dr. Carter?" His voice is low, careful not to startle the pup nestled against him. Footsteps approach, unhurried but attentive. Dr. Emily Carter appears from the hallway, her expression shifting the moment she sees Daniel and the bundle in his arms. Her voice softens. "What do you have there?" Daniel opens the jacket slightly, revealing the small, trembling form inside. "We found him near the canal," he says quietly. "He was barely hanging on." Dr. Carter steps closer, her eyes full of a compassion that moves without words. She holds out her hands. "Let me help him." Harbor watches, still as stone, ears high, as if guarding the moment itself. Daniel releases the pup into Dr. Carter's waiting palms, and for a heartbeat the world seems to pause. Even the air feels reverent, as though these walls understand the weight of a life so small and the faith it took to carry it this far. Dr. Carter cradles the tiny pup with a gentleness that steadies the room itself, as if her hands know exactly how to hold something this close to the edge. The clinic's soft lighting glows against the pup's damp fur, revealing just how small he truly is. Harbor sits near Daniel's leg, his posture tall and alert, eyes fixed on the table with unwavering focus. Daniel feels his breath slow as Dr. Carter carries the pup to a stainless steel exam surface warmed by a heating pad. She lowers him carefully, wrapping a soft towel around his body and adjusting a small overhead lamp so its warmth falls like a protective halo. The pup shifts faintly, a barely there movement that makes Daniel lean closer. "Is he going to make it?" he asks, his voice quieter than he intended. Dr. Carter listens to the pup's chest, her expression calm but serious. "He is cold, dehydrated, and exhausted," she says softly, "but there is a heartbeat. And sometimes that is enough to begin with." Harbor releases a slow exhale, as though that single sentence has given him permission to hope. The pup makes a small sound, a faint hum against the towel, and Dr. Carter smiles gently. "There is fight in him," she murmurs. She reaches for a tiny syringe filled with a warm electrolyte solution and brings it near the pup's mouth. "I will give him just a drop at a time." The first drop touches the pup's tongue, and for a moment nothing happens. Then, slowly, he swallows. Dr. Carter's shoulders lift with a breath she had been holding. Daniel feels something unspool inside him, a tension he did not realize had coiled this tightly. Harbor steps forward, resting his chin lightly on the table's edge. Watching with the devotion of a guardian who understands the fragility of what lies before him. Dr. Carter gives another drop. The pup swallows again. His small chest rises a little more fully, as if each sip draws him further from the thin line between fading and staying. "You are doing good, little one," she whispers. Daniel studies the pup's delicate features, the way the tiny ears fold softly against the head, the way the paws curl inward as though still remembering the warmth they lost. A thought moves through him gently, unexpected. "Somebody meant for him to be found," he says under his breath. Dr. Carter nods, but her eyes stay on the pup. "Sometimes the world hides its miracles in the most unlikely places," she replies. "And sometimes it takes a dog with good instincts to uncover them." Harbor's ears lift slightly at the sound of his unspoken praise. Daniel places a hand on his back, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breathing. The clinic feels different now, quieter but full, like the moment before dawn when light has not yet appeared but the sky knows it is coming. The pup releases a tiny sigh, so faint it barely disturbs the air, yet it carries something unmistakable, the first hint of strength returning. Dr. Carter adjusts the towel, tucking it around him like a promise. "He is not safe yet," she says gently, "but he is not slipping away either." Daniel nods. Harbor stands a little taller. And in that small, warm room, hope gathers itself one fragile breath at a time. Dr. Carter watches the tiny pup's breathing, her calm focus filling the room with a steady kind of patience. The soft hum of the heating pad blends with the quiet tick of the wall clock, each second stretching gently across the warm clinic air. Daniel stands close, one hand resting on Harbor's back, grounding himself in the dog's steady presence. Harbor's gaze never leaves the pup, his ears shifting with every small sound. The pup exhales, a delicate whisper of breath that trembles in the towel. Dr. Carter adjusts the lamp slightly, ensuring the warmth falls evenly over the small form. "Temperature is inching up," she says softly. "Slow progress, but progress." Daniel nods, though his jaw tightens with something like restrained hope. Whatever he went through out there, he held on longer than I would have expected. Dr. Carter glances at him, her eyes gentle. "Some newborns have a kind of quiet resilience. They wait for the right hands to reach them." Harbor lifts one paw, placing it lightly against the lower edge of the table, as if offering his own confirmation. Daniel gives a soft chuckle. He is taking credit for the rescue already. The pup stirs again, this time lifting his head just enough to nuzzle the inside of the towel. His movements are tiny, but they carry intention. Dr. Carter leans closer. "That is good. He is searching for warmth now. That is instinct waking back up." She prepares a small bottle with warmed formula, swirling it gently. "He might not take it yet, but we can try." Daniel steps forward, watching quietly as she places a single drop of formula near the pup's mouth. For a moment the pup is still. Then, slowly, his tongue flicks out, tasting the warmth. Harbor's tail moves once, a soft tap against the floor. The pup latches weakly, managing only a few small swallows before tiring again. Dr. Carter nods, satisfied. "That is enough." We do not want to overwhelm him. Daniel lets out a breath he did not realize he was holding. It is strange, he murmurs, how someone so small can pull everything inside you into one moment. Dr. Carter smiles. That is often how rescue works. It reminds us how connected we all are. Outside, a faint rumble of distant thunder rolls across the sky, soft and low. The storm Daniel smelled earlier is finally drawing near. The warm room feels even more protective now, a shelter between the fragile pup and the world he was not ready to face alone. Harbor shifts closer to Daniel, leaning his weight gently against him. Daniel kneels beside the large dog, placing a hand on his chest. You heard him when no one else could, he whispers. Harbor responds with a quiet huff, as if he understands the gratitude beneath the words. Dr. Carter wraps the pup more securely in the towel. He is not out of danger, she says gently. But he is fighting. And that matters. Daniel meets her eyes. There is something in his expression, relief, disbelief, and a softness he rarely allows to surface. The pup sighs, a tiny, content sound. Harbor watches, still and reverent. And in that moment, the fragile secret found near the forgotten canal feels less like a burden and more like a blessing, slowly learning how to breathe again. The storm outside begins to tap against the clinic windows, a soft percussion that seems to echo the fragile rhythm of the pup's breathing. The room feels smaller now, warmer, almost sacred in its quiet. Dr. Carter adjusts the heating lamp once more, her motion steady and practiced, while Harbor settles beside the exam table, his chest rising in slow, patient waves. Daniel stands close enough to feel the warmth radiating from both the lamp and his dog, a gentle reminder that life can gather itself in the smallest corners. The pup shifts beneath the towel, stretching one tiny paw as if testing the world he has re-entered. Dr. Carter leans in, listening carefully. His temperature is improving, she says softly. It is steadying faster than I expected. Daniel watches the small movement, something soft unraveling in his expression. He really wants to stay, he murmurs. Harbor tilts his head, giving a low, approving rumble. The pup's breathing smooths into a more even pace, fragile but determined. Dr. Carter prepares another small measure of formula and offers it gently. This time, the pup responds quicker, latching with a little more strength. The faint sound of swallowing fills the air, quiet yet powerful in its promise. That is a very good sign, she says. He is engaging now. Daniel lets a breath slip out, quiet but full. The storm outside deepens, wind brushing along the siding of the building like a whisper. The clinic lights glow warmer against the dark, turning the room into a pocket of safety against the unsettled weather. Dr. Carter watches the pup drink, offering just enough to avoid tiring him. When he finishes, she tucks the towel around him again, creating a soft cradle that hugs his body. Harbor inches closer, placing his chin on the edge of the table. His eyes follow every movement the pup makes, the devotion unmistakable. Daniel rests a hand between Harbor's shoulders, feeling the solid, grounding presence of the dog who had led him into the dark without hesitation. You knew he was there, Daniel whispers. Harbor's tail taps once against the floor, a quiet affirmation. The pup releases a tiny, contented sound, almost like a small sigh, and nestles deeper into the towel. His chest rises more confidently now, each breath no longer a question but an answer. Dr. Carter steps back slightly, giving Daniel and Harbor space to witness the slow miracle unfolding on the table. He is not out of the woods, she says gently, but he is responding beautifully. Sometimes the smallest life just needs someone to stand between it and the cold for a while. Daniel nods, his gaze steady. Then he has the right team tonight. A moment of stillness settles over them, full and warm. Harbor's eyes soften. The pup sleeps. And in the gentle glow of the clinic, hope feels like something you can touch, something that flickers quietly but refuses to go out. The storm deepens outside, the gentle patter on the windows growing into a quiet chorus that wraps the clinic in a cocoon of sound. Daniel remains near the exam table, watching the tiny rise and fall of the pup's chest beneath the towel. Harbor rests beside him, ears half lifted, body still but ready, as if he knows the night is not finished testing the fragile life they brought in. Dr. Carter checks the thermometer once more, her brows softening. "He is holding steady," she says. "His body is starting to accept the warmth." Daniel nods, absorbing every word as though each one steadies his own breathing. The pup shifts slightly, his head tilting toward the pocket of warmth created by the lamp. The movement is small, but deliberate, and Harbor responds with an approving rumble low in his throat. Dr. Carter steps away briefly to prepare a small incubator in the back room, the soft glow of its internal lamp spreading across the counter like a quiet sunrise. She returns with a gentle smile. "Once he is settled in here, I can monitor him through the night." Daniel hesitates, his gaze lingering on the pup as if torn between staying close and trusting the care he knows the little one needs. Harbor nudges his leg, a subtle reminder that this moment is part of the journey, not the end of it. With careful hands, Dr. Carter lifts the pup, still wrapped in the towel. The pup releases a tiny sound, somewhere between a breath and a whimper, and his tiny paw curls weakly around the fabric. Daniel feels something flicker inside him, an ache that is not sorrow but something softer, something like awe. Dr. Carter places the pup gently into the incubator, adjusting the towel so it forms a nest around his body. The interior light bathes the tiny figure in a warm, golden glow. Harbor steps closer, placing one paw forward, as if needing to see with his own eyes that the little one is safe. The pup's breathing steadies again, the light rising and falling along the towel. Daniel watches in silence, the weight of the moment settling gently on his shoulders. Dr. Carter closes the incubator door with a soft click. "This next hour is important," she says. "His body needs to learn its rhythm again." Her voice carries the calm certainty of someone who has walked through countless fragile nights. Daniel lets out a slow breath. "He made it this far," he says quietly. "Maybe that means something." Harbor's gaze stays fixed on the incubator, steady and sure, as if promising to keep watch through the storm no matter how long it lasts. Dr. Carter steps aside, giving Daniel space. The overhead light reflects softly on the glass, and Daniel reaches out, resting his fingertips gently against it. Inside, the pup stirs, pressing his tiny body deeper into the warmth, as though he senses the presence beyond the glass. For a moment, the world outside fades, the storm, the darkness, the cold, and all that remains is the fragile heartbeat learning to trust its place in the world again. The clinic holds its breath with him, and hope lingers in the quiet, warm and unwavering. The storm softens as the night settles deeper, the rhythm on the windows easing into a gentle murmur that feels almost like a lullaby meant for the tiny life inside the incubator. Harbor lies close to the glass, his breath forming small clouds of warmth each time he exhales, his amber eyes fixed on the pup as if willing the rhythm of that fragile chest to continue. Daniel stands beside him, one hand absent-mindedly resting on Harbor's shoulders, feeling the steady rise and fall beneath his palm. It anchors him, keeping him present in a moment that feels both impossibly fragile and impossibly important. Inside the incubator, the pup stirs. At first it is only a faint twitch of a paw, a soft curl of his tiny toes against the towel. Daniel leans closer, his heart tightening in that careful way a hope does when it is afraid to expand too quickly. Another movement follows. The pup shifts his head, pressing into the warmth like he is seeking something familiar he has only just remembered. Dr. Carter moves quietly to the incubator, her steps soft, her expression focused but gentle. She checks the monitors, then watches the pup with a stillness that mirrors the room. "This is good," she whispers. "He is responding to the heat. He is trying." Harbor lifts his head higher, ears forward, tail sweeping a small arc across the floor. The pup lets out a tiny sound, faint but clear, a soft cry that carries both effort and need. Daniel's breath catches. It is the first real vocalization they have heard. Dr. Carter opens the incubator door a few inches, allowing a controlled pocket of warm air to escape. She reaches in slowly and places a fingertip near the pup's mouth. The pup nuzzles weakly, searching. He is hungry again, she says softly. She prepares another small measure of formula and offers it to him with deliberate care. The pup latches, stronger than before, drinking in small but determined swallows. Harbor lets out a deep, quiet sigh, the kind that comes from a place of understanding far beyond language. Look at him, Daniel murmurs. He is coming back. Dr. Carter nods. Sometimes all a life needs is warmth and a reason to keep going. The pup finishes the tiny feeding and curls into the towel once more, his movements smoother, his breaths more even. His little chest rises with a steadiness that had not been there before. Daniel feels something shift inside him, something that feels like a weight lifting and settling all at once. Harbor lowers his head until his nose nearly touches the glass. The pup, eyes still closed, shifts in the direction of that warmth as if he can feel the presence beyond the barrier. He knows you two are here, Dr. Carter says. He is responding to the comfort. The storm outside fades into a distant hum, the room glowing with a soft quiet that feels almost sacred. Daniel closes his eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the incubator, the steady breath of Harbor, and the fragile, persistent heartbeat inside the glass settle into him. When he opens them, the pup is breathing with a rhythm that is no longer uncertain but softly, undeniably alive. And in that warm, glowing space, hope becomes something solid enough to hold. The storm fades into a distant whisper, leaving the clinic wrapped in a calm that feels almost deliberate, as if the night itself has stepped back to give the tiny pup room to breathe. Daniel stays close to the incubator, watching the soft glow illuminate the gentle rise and fall of the pup's chest. Harbor lies at his feet, his head resting on his paws, eyes half open but still alert, guarding the quiet miracle unfolding inches away. Dr. Carter monitors the readings on the incubator, her expression easing with every steady heartbeat. He is stabilizing, she says softly. His body temperature is nearly where it needs to be. Daniel releases a slow breath, one that carries the weight of everything he had not said aloud. I did not expect him to fight this hard, he murmurs. Dr. Carter smiles, adjusting the towel around the pup. Sometimes the smallest ones have the strongest reasons. The pup stirs again, a soft stretch beneath the warmth, his tiny paws unfurling like new leaves. His mouth opens in a quiet yawn, barely audible, but full of life. Harbor lifts his head, ears pricking forward at the small sound, as if acknowledging the effort with reverence. Daniel crouches beside him, placing a hand on the dog's neck. You found him for a reason, buddy, he whispers. Harbor leans into the touch, his eyes warm and steady. Dr. Carter opens the incubator door just enough to offer the pup a tiny feeding. The pup responds immediately, stronger than before, latching with intent. His breaths come fuller now, more assured, each one carving itself deeper into the world. He is improving faster than I expected, she says, her voice threaded with cautious optimism. Daniel watches in silence, the tight knot in his chest slowly loosening as the pup drinks. The storm clouds outside drift apart, revealing a faint glow along the horizon, the hint of moonlight slipping through the thinning veil. When the feeding ends, Dr. Carter settles the pup back into the nest of towels, adjusting the lamp so its warmth washes evenly across his body. The pup curls into the softness, his tiny frame relaxing in a way that speaks of safety, of trust, of a quiet surrender to the warmth around him. Daniel presses his fingertips to the glass again. And this time the pup shifts toward the touch, not with desperation but with recognition, as though he senses the steady presence that carried him out of the dark. Harbor rises slowly, stepping closer, his nose near the glass, his breath fogging it in small, gentle bursts. The pup's tiny ears twitch in response, a sign so small yet so full of meaning that Daniel feels his throat tighten. Dr. Carter watches them with a soft, knowing expression. He is not just surviving, she says. He is connecting. Daniel nods, his voice low. He knows he is not alone anymore. The clinic settles into a peaceful hush, the incubator's warm glow reflecting in Harbor's watchful eyes. And in that stillness, the fragile secret they found in the cold grows stronger, breath by breath, held together by warmth, instinct, and the quiet faith of those who refuse to walk away. The night settles into a softer quiet, the kind that feels earned, as though the world understands the weight of the small victory breathing steadily inside the incubator. Harbor remains close, his large frame curled beside the warm glow, eyes half-lidded but alert, guarding the pup with the calm patience of a seasoned sentinel. Daniel sits on a low stool near the table, elbows resting lightly on his knees, the tension that had held his shoulders for hours finally beginning to ease. Dr. Carter dims the overhead lights, leaving only the soft amber hue surrounding the incubator. "He is resting well," she says in a whisper, as if even her voice should honor the fragile peace in the room. Daniel nods, watching the pup's tiny movements through the glass. The pup shifts, curling into the towel, his breath slow and even, no longer scraping for strength. The glow of the lamp paints his fur in warm gold, turning the faint patterns on his coat into something delicate and new. Harbor lifts his head and leans forward, nose nearly touching the glass. The pup's small body responds instinctively, nudging closer to the warmth on the other side, as though he recognizes the quiet guardian watching over him. Daniel smiles, the kind of smile that comes not from relief alone but from gratitude that has been building quietly inside him. "I think he likes you," he murmurs to Harbor. Harbor gives a soft huff, the sound warm, almost reassuring. Dr. Carter steps back, folding her arms gently. "He is connecting," she says. "That bond will help him more than you may realize." The pup releases a tiny sigh, a sound so soft it barely reaches them, yet Daniel feels it settle in the room like a small affirmation. For a moment, silence holds them all together, man, dog, and the new life breathing into the world again. Daniel stands slowly, stretching the stiffness from his back. He walks to the window, glancing at the sky beyond the storm clouds. The moon has broken through, spreading a pale silver glow across the parking lot. It feels like the night is finally letting go of its weight. When he turns back, he finds Harbor sitting perfectly still, eyes locked on the incubator, posture straight and proud. "You are not leaving him, are you?" Daniel whispers. Harbor flicks his tail once, a gentle sweep of certainty. Dr. Carter approaches quietly. "If you want to stay until morning, you can," she offers. Sometimes pups this young respond best to familiar voices, familiar presence. Daniel nods, moved more deeply than he expected. "Then we will be here," he says. He pulls the stool closer and sits beside Harbor again, letting his hand rest on the dog's back. The warmth beneath his palm is steady, grounding. The pup shifts once more, the tiniest sign of contentment. His breathing deepens, smooth and rhythmic, a quiet testament to the life choosing to stay. Daniel closes his eyes briefly, letting the moment wash over him, the soft hum of the incubator, Harbor's steady breathing, the fragile heartbeat filling the warm space between them. When he opens his eyes, the pup is still resting, but there is a new strength in the small rise and fall of his chest. It is subtle, but unmistakable. Hope has taken root. And in the hush of the clinic, it feels like a beginning. The clinic grows quieter as the hours stretch toward dawn, the soft hum of equipment blending with the steady rhythm of Harbor's breathing. Daniel remains beside him, shoulders relaxed now, no longer held in the tension that had followed him from the abandoned canal. The incubator glows like a small sunrise in the dim room, casting warm light across the pup's tiny form. Dr. Carter checks the readings with gentle precision, her movements quiet, respectful of the peace that has settled over the space. "His temperature is stable," she says softly. "His little heart is keeping a steady rhythm." Daniel exhales, the sound soft, almost reverent. Harbor lifts his head, ears forward, sensing the shift in the room before Daniel fully understands it. Inside the incubator, the pup stirs again, but this time the movement carries a different kind of energy. His paws flex, curling against the towel, and his head lifts just slightly, wobbling with the effort. Daniel leans forward, feeling his breath catch in his chest. "Is he trying to get up?" he whispers. Dr. Carter nods. "He is testing his strength." That is exactly what we hope to see at this stage. Harbor stands, stepping closer to the glass with a slow, deliberate movement. The pup responds, tiny ears twitching as though he can sense the familiar presence waiting for him. Then, with a small but determined effort, the pup pushes his head free of the towel, blinking softly as though the warm light is the first sunrise he has ever known. Daniel feels something inside him lift, something deep and human and wordless. "Look at you," he breathes. "You are really fighting." The pup gives a faint sound, higher than a bark but full of life. He noses the towel, pressing closer to the warmth, searching for something he seems to trust instinctively. Dr. Carter adjusts the incubator door slightly, allowing a bit more airflow. "He is responding to familiar scent cues," she says. "He knows you two stayed with him." Harbor sits beside Daniel, posture tall and proud, his gaze steady on the fragile miracle they found together. The pup shifts again, settling himself in a way that feels intentional, as if he is choosing to rest rather than collapsing into exhaustion. His breaths come even and sure, small but confident steps toward living. Daniel feels a warmth spread through his chest, deeper than relief, steadier than hope. It is something closer to gratitude, threaded through with awe. "He should not have made it through the night," he whispers. Dr. Carter nods. "But he did." Sometimes faith shows up in the smallest places. The pup curls into the towel, a picture of new strength wrapped in softness. Harbor leans closer, his reflection merging with the glow of the incubator, the guardian watching over the rescued. Daniel rests a hand on Harbor's back, the warmth of the dog grounding him fully. In the moment. The storm outside has completely passed, leaving a stillness in its wake, as though the world itself has paused to acknowledge the fragile heartbeat that refused to fade. And in that quiet, Daniel understands something with profound clarity: faith does not need proof to be real. Sometimes it is simply a breath, a flicker, a tiny life that chooses to stay when everything else says it should not. The first edge of dawn begins to press against the clinic windows, a pale silver light blending with the warm glow of the incubator. The storm has passed entirely now, leaving the world washed clean and quiet, as if the night itself bowed in respect to the fragile heartbeat that refused to fade. Daniel sits beside Harbor, both of them still and calm, watching the tiny pup through the glass. The pup moves with new intention, lifting his head with a steadiness that was unimaginable only hours ago. His small body shifts, stretching in the towel, testing the strength that now pulses gently through him. Dr. Carter steps forward with quiet footsteps, her expression softening when she sees the pup's awakening energy. "He is stronger," she says softly. "Much stronger." Harbor stands, ears forward, tail lifting with a subtle, hopeful wag. Daniel rises beside him, his hand resting on Harbor's back as if sharing the moment through touch alone. Inside the incubator, the pup blinks, eyelids fluttering open to reveal dark, unfocused eyes. He makes a soft sound, tiny but full of life. Daniel leans closer, voice a whisper. "Good morning, little one." The pup stirs, then turns toward the sound of his voice, guided by instinct rather than sight. Dr. Carter opens the incubator door a few inches and gently lifts the pup into her hands. He fits easily in her palms, warm now instead of cold, breathing steady instead of fading. She offers him to Daniel. "Do you want to hold him?" Daniel hesitates only a moment before extending his hands. The pup settles into them with surprising trust, his tiny body curling into the warmth of Daniel's palms. Harbor inches closer, sniffing softly, his amber eyes gentle. The pup nuzzles his nose toward Harbor's muzzle, brushing him with the faintest touch. Harbor responds with a low, tender rumble, a sound of pure acceptance. Daniel feels something tighten in his chest, a quiet, unexpected emotion blooming in. The space between man and dog and the newborn life resting in his hands. Dr. Carter watches with a small smile. He has chosen his family, she says. The word settles softly over the room, carried on the early morning light. Daniel holds the pup a little closer, letting the warmth sink into his skin, letting the fragile heartbeat resonate through him. Harbor stands proudly beside them, his presence strong and steadfast, the guardian who found what no one else would have noticed. The sun begins to rise fully now, casting golden light across the clinic floor, touching the pup's fur with the glow of a promise kept. Daniel looks toward the windows, then back at the pup. "We are going to give you every chance," he whispers. The pup releases a tiny sound, almost like agreement, and nestles deeper into Daniel's hands. Harbor leans in, their three silhouettes framed by the soft dawn light. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by warmth and faith and the first breath of morning, grace settles over them like a blessing, simple, gentle, and utterly real.